That sucks. Good afternoon, Sean Carlson, Blackjack 98 Enterprises. Today's date is Tuesday, July the 8th. The project that you see behind me is my next project. Once again, it's a weed whacker. Not a big deal. What we're going to do is we're going to analyze it, we're going to fix it, we're going to repair it, we're going to strip it down completely, right down to the piston. We're going to do this so that way for the future people that have something similar to this, you know what to do when it comes to the parts that are inside, how to take them apart, how to analyze them, test them. And once we get all that done, we will be putting it to usage. So let me flip this camera around. Okay, so I picked this one up from some guy up in Maple Ridge where I lived. He was selling two of them, and this is the one. As you can tell, we're missing an air filter cover, and an air filter. It looks to me like the bolts there are in there to keep this carburetor in. And the carburetor doesn't look too bad. If I was to hit the trigger, well, looks like that works nicely. And which tells me that the cable to the line here is nice. We're going to test the on-off switch here to see if it works. This here looks like it's a shoulder strap type of idea. The only thing that this is missing is the fuel tank. We got wires here that are open and exposed, so we'll try to deal with those. Maybe they're supposed to be inside, but it doesn't look like they're meant to be like that. It looks like they're designed to be like this. So we'll work on these just a little bit better. Thanks to the power technology, everybody, I was able to order the fuel tank on eBay, and I just got it today. So this is what the fuel tank looks like. Okay. We'll clean it up. We'll test it for leakage. When I look at it right now, there does not appear to be any cracks in it, but the only way that we'll find that out is by pouring water into this and looking for cracks. And that goes into there just like this. Okay? Everybody see that? All right, so this is a straight shaft. A straight shaft. Is there any other numbers on it? Yes, there is. I can barely see those once it's a homelite. What do you know? I just finished working on several homelites. Oh, this looks like it's an attachment for the shoulder strap. Or maybe that's for the hanging up. I'm not exactly sure. Oh my, but everything else looks like it's in good condition. So, the head here, the cutter head. This is metal, by the way, which is really awesome. This is a different type of gear head that I've not seen before, and it's been put in with star head screws. The cutter head itself looks pretty nice. So we'll look at the cutter head, and we'll look at this entire shaft after we're done working on the engine. It looks like this would be just one piece, so therefore I would have to take everything apart here and then remove the shaft from the inside, or maybe I can remove it from here. I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're just going to prop this up nicely, and we're going to start stripping it. And it looks to me like I would need star head screws. This could be T27s, T25s, I don't know. And the same thing with these ones. So let me get everything all ready here. Okay, in order for us to work on this, we need tools and equipment. So what you need is a T25 star head. You're also going to need a spark plug checker, a spark plug tester, tester. You're going to need a compression gauge. You're also going to need some needle nose pliers, WD-40. You're going to need easy-off oven cleaner and some brake cleaning fluid. If you don't know what this is, I'm going to tell you this right now, what I need is. When I take off the muffler is full of corroded parts. And because it's an oven cleaner, it's all burnt stuff that is coming out of the exhaust. The Easy Off oven cleaner comes and cleans all those nicely. Okay? So, Once we got all this, then we can move ahead and start working on this. And we're going to start with compression. Okay, so there does not look like there's any spark plug in there, which this would have been connected to. But you take your tester, you zero it, and then you take this part here and you screw it into there, just like that. Now, I can't do everything with one hand, which is why I have a stand. Once we have everything all set up into place, then what we do is we pull this. Now, this does not necessarily mean you're going to be able to pull it. You could be stuck. In fact, it could move just a little bit, or it's not going to move at all. But if it does move, you're going to give it 5 pulls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to check it. Okay? 5 pulls should be enough for you to get an idea of the reading on here. And when you're reading this, it should be above 60. It definitely should be above 90. Anything between 90 to 150 is perfect. If it's 60 or between 60 and 90, that means you barely have pressure. It'll work, but it won't work very well. Okay, 90 and above is what you're looking for. Now, when the needle does get there, it needs to stay there. It cannot go down. It might go down slowly or quickly after you pull it. So I'm gonna put the stand right there. Try to, okay, something like this. So here we go. Okay, so what this tells me right there is that the piston is moving freely. And the rewind works on this cord here. Okay, so let's look at this. We have between 60 and 90. If I was to give this another 5 pulls, we might be able to get a higher reading. But as you can see, the needle is staying there, which means the compression is still in the cylinder. So we're going to give it 5 more pulls. Okay, and it's staying right where it is, right there. So to be honest with you, this does not have very good compression, even though it's holding a little bit. My guess would be that the piston ring can be seized. There could be just a little bit of scoring between the cylinder and the piston. Something like the piston ring could be stuck or seized into a closed position, making a lot of gap, or it could be seized into an open position where it's not closing very well, and the piston is rubbing harshly against the cylinder. Okay, now you see me pull this up and down, which means when I was pulling it all the way up to here, the piston was able to go up and down, and it felt to me like there was no real resistance. If there was high resistance, you've gotten a higher reading on your compression tester. Okay, so now that we know all that, I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to start removing these ones here and getting this black part, handle part off first. Okay, so I'm about ready to start taking this off. I got my screwdriver. It looks to me like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. And there's something right here, and I don't know what. Oh yeah, there's another one there. And I can tell there's another one on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. They're on the bottom going this way. So we got to be careful of that. And I don't see any more on it anywhere else. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to put my right there. Whenever you're undoing nuts and bolts, if you have ever heard a snap or a crack before when you're undoing them, that is a very good sign that those nuts or bolts have never been taken apart. So listen carefully to this. there's a slight snap from that. It could have been the rust buildup, but who knows? I don't even know if this has been taken apart before. That was a snap right there, a loud one. And that tells me this has never been taken apart before, but woo, well, what do you know? We have a screw. Anytime that we have a screw, we are dealing with two plastic parts being held together. Oh, we gotta do that bottom one. Two on the bottom here. There's a crack. I don't know if you can see it, but where my finger is, there's a crack. I don't know why it's there. Once again, these are screws. Okay, now we're going to flip this over. Okay, it looks to me like I am able to pull this apart. Let's see here. Yes. Oh, everything is falling apart on me. Everything is falling apart on me. Okay. I'm gonna get this out of the way. Oh. There we go. Okay, now let's see here. That. Oh, what's this? I don't know what that is. Okay, so we got a switch with some wiring. We're gonna disconnect those wires, and the way that we do that was with pliers, and we just rip them apart. Be careful because they could be polarized, meaning this side could be wider, this could be smaller. And if I was looking very carefully, there's a probable cause that they could be the same or they could be different. Anytime that you have blades, they could be different sizes just because they're polarized. So I'm going to remove these two, and it looks to me like I would snake it through that hole right there. Whenever you're taking something apart, take pictures of how it looked before, so that way when you go to put it back together, you know how it goes together after. Okay? Okay, so I got this part off, and it's not a big deal. Those are the housing screws, and they are screws, but right here we have bolts. Those two bolts came off of the handle part here, which are connected to those nuts. Now, I have seen this before where nuts and bolts were used for this. Whenever you are dealing with fine threads and you finding them in here, that means they are attached to the engine. Two plastic parts being held together will be by screws. But because these are two plastic parts, they were being held together by a nut and a bolt. So the bolt, nut, bolts, nuts, okay? That is the only time I've ever seen this happen in this particular case. Now, when it comes to the actual engine, you will only see bolts being attached to the engine, okay? If there was any other parts that were held together that were plastic, they would be screws. Now in this particular case, we have a nut and a bolt, and those are holding together the air filter housing to the carburetor, to the spacer, to the actual engine part. Okay, and you will see that as I take this apart. So which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to find a socket set. I'm going to take out those two nuts. Okay, so those two nuts came off the bolts, and I used a 3/8 socket. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take everything apart. Here, let me get everything into full view so you can see me do it. Okay. There's my container, the two nuts, go right there. It might be stuck just a little bit, but you gotta, and it could be because there's supposed to be an air gap or airtight seal between these two, so you might actually need a screwdriver or something just to slightly pry it apart. Don't force it off because you could break something, but just work it off. Just like this. There we go. This is coming off. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, and this, the throttle. Okay, well, let's take the carburetor out. The throttle cable can come out just like that. There we go. Okay, so I gotta fight with this a bit to get that throttle cable off, but that's not a big deal. Just pay attention to how things go together, and like I said, take pictures. So we're gonna put this aside. Now we're gonna look at this part here, the wiring. Okay, don't get too discouraged with the wiring. Now what we do, like I said, these were all holding the carburetor in and housing. There's two more which are right there. So if we take those off, then we're taking off this plastic part here. If we were to look at the carburetor, okay, let me get this stupid thing by itself. Okay, if you were to look at this carburetor, this part right here where the gasket is, you see there's a hole down there and there's a hole up here. Be very careful of the orientation of those holes because of this channel right here. So that hole goes into the carburetor, which is on the top, which comes from right there, on the top of that hole right there. And then it comes down here and goes into the cylinder. So let's take this off and put it right there. You see how these are fine threads, as I was talking about? Fine threads, and these two long pieces, make sure you know how they go in. This is very important. Okay, so these two look special, which go into there. Let's go into there, and these two hold in this to the engine. Okay, so you see that hole right there? There's a hole right there. That hole goes through here on the back side, through here, through this channel, and then into the carburetor. This channel is being blocked by this gasket. You see how it's raised a little bit right there? This creates the airtight seal for this airflow to happen. And what this does, it sucks the gas from the carburetor to the cylinder. Okay? So we're gonna look at this carburetor just a little bit more. We're gonna put everything right there, this right there, this right there, like that. And now we're gonna continue taking apart the engine. The plastic housing now. This part needs to come off first. And the way that we do that is there's a smaller version of the T-star bit, and that goes into there. And I can't remember what size it is, so I'm gonna find it. Okay, so the size of the star bit that I need, this one just happens to be a T20. A T20 is what you will need to put into there. But it's gonna spin the flywheel, so you need to jam something into there to prevent the flywheel from spinning. The only other way you could do that is if you went and found a bolt that was big enough for this socket here, or for the spark plug, and then put it into there to prevent the piston from going up, so that way you could take this off. But because I went the other way and I went and did a hootenanny, this is you can do it this way too. So I'm undoing this. It will never come out by itself, but this one piece will come out just like that. So you see how that happens? The nut is stuck in there. You cannot get that out. But look around it. You can tell that it's been used. There's some rust on there, so there was opportunity for it to be seized. What I use is CLR to clean the rust. I'm going to put that aside, and then we're going to look at this. We're going to flip this up. This part now comes off. We got to do the exact same thing that we did with that. We got to jam something into there and pull this out. This screws out nicely. It looks just a little bit differently than what it is that I have seen before, but the principle is the same. When your weed whacker is spinning, these parts here expand. They expand on the inside of this, and they grab this wheel, and this wheel is what turns your shaft, which is connected right here. See, this connects into that, okay? And that's what spins your head. So do you see the line over here spinning as I'm turning this? Okay, that's why. So in order for that head to turn, this turns. And in order for this to turn, those need to expand and grab this. Those things expand with the centripetal motion, the centrifugal motion, the rotating motion of the engine causes these to expand to grab that, okay? And I have never seen ones that look like this before. This is an old design, but the principle is pretty much the same. So I gotta grab the flywheel, I gotta stick something into there, and then twist these off, okay? And then we'll analyze these just a little bit more. You know what? Let me put my stand on here. Okay. Holy crap, eh? Oh, you know what I have is an actual grinder wheel remover. Look what I got, grinder wheel removal attachment device. Okay, that was a bit of a pain in the butt to get these off, but I've managed to get them off. So they come off like this, and when we look at the back of them, there doesn't seem to be any difference between the back and the front, but yeah, this is what they all look like. Okay, just like that. So we'll take pictures of how they were stacked, and then we'll just put them in, drop them in a CLR. There's a washer right here. Be mindful of this. That's a spacer actually. And now we can now remove 1, 2, 3, 4. Those 4 to pull this cover off. But before we can pull that cover off, we need to take the rear cover off. This one is attached to this. The black cover is attached to the red cover. So these need to come off first. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 there? There's supposed to be 1 there. These ones here have to do with access to the crank of the engine. Okay, so by taking this cover off, you can clean out the gunk at the bottom of the cylinder by removing that. So that's what we're going to work on. Let me get this propped up. Okay. That's a screw. That's a screw. Ooh, this one came off really easy. This one is a fine thread. These 4 will be fine threads because they're attached to the engine. as I just explained earlier. And these are coming off pretty easily, so that tells me somebody had this back part off as well. So make a note of those. Put them into our cup. And then take the back cover off just like that. Now we're going to look at the back cover here, because this here is the gasket. You see that gasket? Let me zoom in on it a little bit. This gasket creates the pressure needed in the cylinder. So remember when I said we only had 60 to 90? This is why. This part is broken right there. If there's air getting inside the cylinder from the bottom, from this part here, this is the reason why it is creating low pressure compression on our cylinder. So we will replace that. There's no other cracks or deformations on there. Now let's look at our crank. Okay, so yeah. If we can see into there, there's some gunk at the bottom of the cylinder. So which means there could be the same gunk in the cylinder. Maybe there's some scoring. The only way that we're going to find out if there's scoring is if we take the muffler off and we look through the carburetor hole. We look through the muffler hole at the cylinder, which is right behind here. Okay, so we'll do that later. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to take off this red cover by taking out those bolts. So let's just take off one, because I have a feeling. Okay, let me see here. I'm going to attack this one here, because I have a feeling it's attached to the engine. It's going this far deep. Oh, look at this. This is a spacer. Be careful of this. This one is going to be a bolt because I can see it's attached to the housing. This one too. Okay, so this in theory should be able to come off. And yes, it will. Do we got something else attached to it? Let's look. Sometimes there is, sometimes it's just stuck. There we go. It's coming off. Okay. So, those are the fur bolts right there that were onto the frame of this. You can put these back if you want to. That's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to remember where they go, is by putting them back into the place there. That's what I'm going to do. And then let's look at this part here. This is the rewind. It doesn't look not bad if it was working properly. So what we're going to do is we're just going to clean this. We're going to dunk it into a pail and clean it. Get all that gunk out. Let's put it right there. Now the engine parts that we've got to, we're going to take off the muffler. And we're going to take off this part here. When you are taking off the ignition coil, turn those screws very carefully. Do not use a drill, because those screws could be held in there really tightly with Loctite. And one other thing to remember is your wiring that we have here is connected directly to the ignition coil. This is what creates the spark. So make sure that you remember which one goes where. Take a picture of this so you don't forget it, okay? Because these could be blades. One blade could be bigger, the other could be smaller. In this particular case, I have seen this before, where one end is attached directly right to the housing. So there needs to be a clean ground circuit that needs to be cleaned with whatever. Take a wire brush and scrape it clean so it makes a good connection, okay? I'm going to take off this part and the muffler. Okay, so the muffler and the ignition coil are now off. When it comes to this part here, there was a small washer right there. This flywheel can come off, and what you got to do is you got to go tip tap, tip tap, tip tap, tip tap on it, because it's on there solid. So take a blunt end of a rubber screwdriver, go bang, 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 but then slide it off. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. It'll keep the timing. There is, in order for you to take off the cylinder head, and there is paper because I jammed it in there so I could get the cylinder to lock into place. There is 3 of the T27 bolts. There's one there, and one there. Only 3. They need to be taken off with a T27 bit. And when you do, you got to use like a ratchet that'll adapt to this and give it a good crank. You might not be able to do it with this. Now, before you do, there is a gasket between the bottom half and the cylinder head. That gasket keeps the airtight seal that was needed for right here. Okay, so there needs to be an airtight seal on this face as well as this face right here. There's 2 gaskets. So what you're going to see me do is pull the cylinder head off, and you're going to see that gasket. Okay, so before we move on, when I took off the muffler, I went and sprayed it with my WD-40, the oven cleaner, and I got all the parts nice and clean. This part here is extremely important for you to have cleaned, because if air cannot get past this screen, then it's going to build up pressure into here, and it's going to blow out the carburetor when you pull it. It's called blowback. This part here was on the face of this part of the muffler, so it's got to be replaced too, because this is important. I do have the material to replace this. We'll just retrace another hole, just like this, or we'll retrace another gasket, just like this one. So this can now go and toss it. And this part here where the carburetor is on, this is kind of glued right onto there. It's probably not glued onto there. It's probably just like, stuck because of the heat from the cylinder head. The cylinder head gets hot, melts this just a little bit, and it affixes to the 2 plate, melts into place. So I'll take a screwdriver and something and get that off. And right now, what we'll do is we'll just take off these 3 bolts, and you're going to watch me do that. I'm going to get myself set up here. Okay. I'm going to try to take it off with the screwdriver. May not work. Here I go. When this does loosens up, you will hear a snap. It should snap. No, it snapped pretty easily. I barely put any pressure on it. Okay, so let's do this next one. There was no snap. It was supposed to snap, but it didn't. This last one, no, once again, no snap. Okay, so what that tells me is somebody had this apart previously, because it should not come apart this easily, to be honest with you. And what do you know? The cylinder head is already coming off as I'm taking off the second bolt here. It doesn't normally do that, because under normal circumstances, the manufacturer has a type of gasket sealant that they put between the faces here, even on the gaskets. So this can pull apart now, just like that. The cylinder comes out nice and loose, and there we go. So let's analyze this. Okay, so here we have the cylinder head. That's the paper that I went and put into there. We can just take that out. There we go. And then we're looking inside the cylinder head here. And I don't know if you can see it, but I cannot see any hardcore scratches on it. On the inside part where the around the mouth of the spark plug, there is corrosion there. That's just because it's been burning. Whatever it was burning got hot. But what we can do is we can take our EZF oven cleaner, spray it into there, clean that up, and then this gasket here is very delicate. Look at that. If this gasket had any holes in it, it would be useless. But it is intact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small screwdriver and I'm going to pry this off carefully. Oh, 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 oh. Look at that. You see that? Technically I can replace this, but if I don't need to, I won't. I'll just carefully clean this up. And this is the face of that, okay? Wow. This is the cylinder head. Looks really nice. I will completely clean this entire thing up with CLR, EZF oven cleaner, and whatnot. Now, let's look at the piston. The piston, right here. The piston is the telltale of... Oh, you know what? Let's take it out completely. You just slip it out just like that. Okay, there we go. You should be able to see lines on this face here or this face here. Okay, the piston rings should be able to move freely. This one actually does move freely, but they got some type of corrosion on them. I can feel that there's stuff stuck onto them. The top of the piston, as you can see, has got crap on it. So we'll clean that crap out because that crap can get in between the piston rings and score the cylinder, created a non-compression that we already had. This is not bad for wear. Ooh, ooh. It's definitely been worn, I can tell. So, because this does not belong to a customer, this is actually mine, I can tell that this rod here may need to be replaced. Because if you look at it, it's kind of very loose. Okay, so I will look at doing that later, but we will put this back together like this to see how it performs once we get everything done. And I will order a part like this anyways. We will take these piston rings out. We'll just expand them. We'll take them out and clean everything up. As far as the crank, we'll clean out the crank too. Crank doesn't look that bad on the inside. We'll scoop that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out. So watch me do it. There we go. Look at that. Voila. Oh, and what do you know? Ladies and gentlemen, you see this part? Not that. You see this part right here? That's the keyway. This is a very old weed whacker because the keyway on the newer ones is built right into the flywheel. In this particular case, you can remove that one out, and this makes me happy. Okay, so on the previous videos that I've done with homelites, they were built into this, and if you screwed that up, you could file it down with a microfile to make it look like this and put one in, a separate one like that. But this is awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go get a pail of water, soap of water, laundry soap, and just soak the hell out of everything here and clean it with a brush, and then lay it all nicely. Everything is going to be sparkly. And as you can tell, the nuts, the bolts and stuff are sizzling, cleaning, and a CLR fluid. So I'll have this all done in a few minutes. Okay, so everything has now been cleaned. I used a bucket of water with soap and water, laundry soap and water, and I got everything washed. As you can tell, there's no rust, hardly any rust anywhere. And no major components. We still have to look at the carburetor and analyze that, and we will do that later. Everything has been polished. That there rust is, it'll come off. What we're going to do now is we're going to test the magneto for spark with the spark plug. I just found this spark plug in my arsenal, and I just went and cleaned it up so it looks new, but it's not. So we're gonna test this out to see if there is life in this, and the way that we're gonna do that is by using that. I'll show you how to use that later, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the flywheel back onto here. We're gonna put the magneto back onto here. Once we find that we have spark in this, then we can put it onto the boot and then use a drill to spin it, so that way we can take this spark plug and put it right there and see if it sparks. That's how we do it. And we're going to do that in a few minutes here. Just let me get set up. Okay, so I brought it inside so you can see the light better. So it's plugged in, just like it's supposed to be. Regular outlet. And the spark plug is in one of those holes. Now, what I'm going to do is flip the lid. And this dial tells you how many revolutions per minute that we are going to turn this. So we're going to start off with 1,000. Then we're going to work our way up. It doesn't really matter because you should be able to see the light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the lamp off. And I'm going to turn it on. I go click. There you got power. Okay, now I'm going to go to 1,000. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, you can see spark. Isn't that cool? If it turns on at 1,000, that means it doesn't matter how high I turn it, it's going to be same thing. So I'm going to turn it off. Now we know we have a good spark plug. So now what we're going to do is we're going to test the ignition coil to see if the ignition coil can create the spark. Okay? Okay, so now we came to the part where we're going to see if we have spark. So the drill will be used to hook up to this, and hopefully you can zero in on that part right here and you can see if there's a spark. We're going to put it right there. So let me get the drill hooked up. Okay, now I'm going to put it right there and you should be able to see a spark. And I see a spark, but you guys might not be able to. But there is a different way that we can find out. Even though I can see one, you might not be able to see it on the screen. We're going to do something different. We're going to use this tool here. So this is just a little bit simpler. What this is just you connect one end on there, the other end on the spark plug, and then you ground the spark plug, and then you look at this part here instead. So let's do that. Here we go. So I can see it. I don't know if you can, but I can. So yes, there is a spark, which means the magneto is good. And that concludes the test on testing the spark plug and the magneto. So now we know we can put this all back together and it should fire because this is good. Okay, so before we put the muffler onto the engine, we need to replace this bit here, and I did that. I went and got some heat resistant material and I went and traced it out and I went and cut it. So now we can put this onto the engine and resume our rebuild. Okay, so this gasket that we found that was broken, which was causing the compression loss, I went and cut out another one just like this. And that goes on the back here, right against this face. So that way this can go on. This goes on just like that, there, right? Or at least some configuration, which is like this. So yeah, that flat that flat surface there matches up with this flat surface. But for this plastic part to go against this face here, you need this gasket. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some gasket sealer and smear it on both sides of it so it's touching this and touching this side. Now, the gasket sealer that I use is a gray stuff right here. This stuff. I'm going to smear this on this side here and this side here, put it onto there, put this onto there, and then tighten it, and then that should be good to get our compression reading. And then once we get everything all together, then we'll redo a compression test with the rewind. Oh crap! Don't forget, have a drink. Okay, so it's half put together. This here part was somewhat tricky, but not really. Now we're going to put the carburetor part on without putting the carburetor. We're going to look at this just a little bit later. So remember that hole and the orientation of this hole. This is a pretty good gasket. We're just going to put it on right there. Make sure that you get that on nicely, and this part here. Look at that. Remember the orientation of that hole. Remember that those long screws are what hold the carburetor in. So once you get everything put together, these two should be the only fine threads left, and these hold this part into those two big screw holes. So I'm going to put this onto there, and I'm going to clean this surface and clean this surface too, because there could be an air gap between here or that surface and that surface, which also contributes to an improper carburetor setting. If there's other access areas for air to get into the cylinder, it will create a problem for carburetor adjusting. So remember that. Okay, so we got this partially all together. All I need to do now is clean the carburetor, which we will do later. What I'm going to do is a compression test to see how much more it improved. So let me get myself all set up here. So here's that, and I'm going to give it 10 pulls this time. So then we're going to look at that reading right there. There we go. So the reading is just a little bit better, 60, 70, 80 psi. Then it could be a little bit more if maybe the carburetor was on there, but if it's holding air, then that's not bad. So I'm going to release it, and then I'm going to continue putting this back together, and we're going to look at the carburetor now. Okay, so I got the carburetor all taken apart, and it's swimming in a concoction of CLR. It's been stripped. The main components, these four, there's actually two here stuck together. These come apart, but if you don't want to reuse these, that's fine. I got the brand spanking new parts right here, which I got from this carburetor kit, which I got literally dozens of. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these back into the carburetor. I'm just going to take those out and put them onto a dry towel here so we can look at the markings and whatever about it. Everything has now been dried and wiped down with a nice cloth. So now we're going to use our air compressor, which is right here. We're going to use our hootenanny here to blow it. We're going to use that to blow out the holes from those two at the top to this one here, and we're going to flush all those holes out. Okay, and that's the primer bulb portion. This here's the regular carburetor. I just noticed on here there is not really any markings or numbers on here. It's an old carburetor that probably never had the markings or anything on here except those ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our air compressor and blow out all the holes, even on all sides of this. Blow them in and out, and you should be able to see daylight out of that little hole right there. You see that? Is daylight? That's perfect. That's what you want to see. So all those little holes are going to get blown out, and then it should be good. Now, you see those two holes with the threads right there? We're going to talk about that because that's for those needles right there. So let me take these two and put them up to the sunlight, and let's see if you can... Excuse me. Okay. These two needles, the only thing that separates them is the fact that you can notice the thread pitch and the length of the head. One cannot be put into the other hole because it will be tight. The threads will not match, and you'll have a hell of a hard time putting it in. So this is an original carburetor, and you would know that because of this exact fact. With a Chinese carburetor, they don't do that. So with an original carburetor, it will look like the distinguishing properties are the length of the head and the pitch and the diameter. Sometimes one is thicker than the other by just like a millimeter, a half a millimeter, or a fraction of an inch. So we're going to put those right there, okay? And once we've got everything all together, we're going to put these back onto there. Now, remember me saying that I had a gunk that I put on for the gaskets, which was this stuff. We don't use that when we're putting these onto the carburetor. What I use is a dollar store glue, super glue, cement glue, whatever, multi-purpose. I just smear that onto the surfaces of the gasket, and then I put that onto the face, and it sticks there. So that will help ensure a nice airtight seal when it comes to putting this back together. And that way, when you hit the primer bulb, when you're hitting the primer bulb, it'll be full. It'll make itself full. Like, primer bulbs never go right to the top, but some do, depending on the cleanliness of the carburetor. Some will be half full. We'll see how this looks when we put it all back together. So I'm going to blow it out, and then I'm going to put this glue onto these surfaces, and then all back together, and we're going to do a drinking test. A drinking test will ensure that when we hit the primer bulb, fuel is going inside and then coming out comfortably with no holes. Okay, so now we've came to the part where we have it all together exactly like we went and used those products in here to create that airtight seal. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drinking test, and the way that we do that is we have this. This is what we're going to use to hook up to the carburetor, so that way when we press the primer bulb, we can see the fuel flowing through the tubing. So this is the best way to find out on your carburetor which one hooks up to the fuel filter and which one is the return. So this one right here, this tube that I'm touching, is the return, which means it goes into whatever part here. Now, if you don't know, this is going to be trial and error. You got a 50% chance of getting this right. So I'm going to hook this one up to the bottom. This one, which is connected to the fuel filter, should be sucking up the fuel into the carburetor. And they should be airtight seals. If they're not airtight seals, it's not going to work very well. The top one is pretty loose, and so is the bottom one, so this might not work as effectively. But let's watch what happens when we press the primer bulb. Oh, and don't forget to have a drink. Okay, so here we go. Well, I can see stuff coming out. It's coming out through the bottom. Yeah, and now it's circulating into the primer bulb. It's filling up. Look at that. And now when I press the primer bulb down, you should see it come out the top here. There we go. And we keep doing that, and it spits out. Okay? This is the cycle of the carburetor when you press the primer bulb. When you stop pressing the primer bulb, the vacuum that's already created in here will suck the gas into the primer bulb. So keep pressing it down, keep pressing up, down, up, down, up, down. And then this carburetor should technically be ready to go. Now, if you are noticing that there is leakage coming from anywhere That means you got to take this apart again, find out where the leak is coming from, and then seal it somehow. Okay, but under normal circumstances, this is how it would work. This is your fuel tank. This is the primer bulb, which you can, now if it was a separate primer bulb, a separate one which requires 3 fuel lines and a separate primer bulb, I have a specific video for that. There's so many things I want to talk about right now, but I can't, which is why it sounds like I'm mumbling. But this is the setup and how you test your carburetor for drinking. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect these hoses, put this back, and then get this ready to put back into the weed whacker. Okay, and then we're going to secure this in there with the air filter, and then we're going to mess around now with the weed whacker head. Okay, so we're at the part now where we're going to test the gas tank if it's leaking. So this is the one that I had ordered off of eBay. And before we fill this up with water and look for leaks, I want to let everybody know that there is a one-way valve on there which lets the air into the gas tank, and it is a duckbill valve, a little green duckbill valve right there. So you should be able to blow this out. Okay, here, you know what, let me get my compressor, my compressor. I'm going to blow it out. So now we know that this will let the air in to push the gas down to get into the carburetor. If any of you are having problems with your gas tank because it's surging, this could be the problem. This part here, which is a sponge, could be clogged, not letting the air in, which in turn creates a vacuum in your gas tank. And just like a jug of water, if you were to pour the water out by plugging one top, that air would create a vacuum sucking the water back up, just like a straw. Okay, so I'm going to put this water into here. There's a hole right there. I'm going to plug it with my thumb. Okay, now we're going to put the lid on. Oh, and just so everybody knows, there is a rubber gasket right there which creates the locking seal so fluid doesn't leak out. Okay, now there's no leaks yet, so we're going to turn it all around, upside down, over. There is no leaks whatsoever when doing this. You should have found them or seen them by now. And ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing. So therefore we have a good gas tank. So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this gas tank sit in the sun, because the sunlight will dry out the gas tank of the water. Right? So it's just going to sit there like this. And the heat from the sun is going to dry it out. And this part is done. Okay, so now that we're done putting together the weed whacker, I got the handle bit off, and when you hit the trigger, carburetor works. So that's fine. Now we're going to work on this part here. So when you slide this into the weed whacker, you can tell that the shaft ends right about here. So you literally got to slide it in there for it to go into there, and it'll lock. There's locking slots that are right there. This part, the shaft, comes right out. You can just pull that right out. It does come out easily enough. Just like that. There we go. Let's put it down and inspect it. Okay, so this end here, it's got a square. This end here, it's got a square. It doesn't matter which end that you put into there, because it will work the same. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the head. Oh, this looks, oh my gosh, look at that. There is a crack right there. Oh, that heavily affects the weed whacker. But we're going to look at that a little bit more. And I can tell, as you can tell, that this is loose. See that? It's loose. Somebody had this off previously. Okay, no big deal. We're gonna use what T is this? This is a T25 to take all these off. And let's look underneath. Oh yeah, I gotta take those off too. So let's see. The wheels aren't gonna come off unless those come off. Unless those come off, the head has to come off. So the way the head comes off is you just unscrew this. And of course, I gotta use two hands. Hold on. Okay, so after getting everything off, this one here was a bit stuck on there because it was rusted. I had to use plumbing pliers to get them out. Then after that, this just slides right out. You gotta twist it off, but look at that. A lot of rust and cobwebs. And right here is a part that was stuck on there, which too was a plastic, which is surrounding this here knob. And that had to be tapped out and pried out and twisted out. Okay, now I'm going to take out the head here. Oh, crap. I need to look loose because I just untightened these so I wasn't fighting with it on camera. These are T25 screws, and when you take these off, pay attention to the size of them, the length of them, the shape of them. Not all screws are the same. Okay. These ones are short, about 3/4 of an inch in length from the base of the screw. Okay, this is what they look like. All right. And there's 4 of them. So now this is loose. I'm not sure how to get this off. Oh my gosh. There's a keyway right there which suggests to me that I probably have to do some type of fancy screwing or whatever the hell. This string stuck on here. Okay, so now we're going to focus on this part. Keep these separate from the other screws that you just took off because they could be different. You never know. And when I look at these ones here, these ones are a bit different than these ones in length. You see the difference? That 1/8 of an inch makes a huge difference. So separate them. Yeah, I'm gonna put this on pause. Okay, so we're on the last screw here, and there's another one which looks like it's attached directly right to the shaft. And it's this one here. This one is normally attached directly to the shaft to prevent it from spinning like we were able to do earlier. Okay? And once again, be careful of the length because that one that we just took off, the one that was attached to the shaft, is noticeably shorter than the ones that are attached to right here, the housing. So now we can pull this off apart carefully, or we can just slip it off, slip the head off. There we go. Okay, so now we put this part here away. Now we got this here, and looks to me like we can just pull it apart like a prostitute's legs, right, with a little bit of effort. You know what, might need a screw. It looks to me like you can get a flathead screwdriver in there. Like this flathead screwdriver. Yeah, I get the idea that it can come off. It's just this part here that needs to come out. Oh, there's one more screw. What do you know? I missed one. Yeah, I think this part here needs to come off, so I gotta figure this out. And if I was to take my best guess, I would say that keyway and this nut here need to come off separately. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fight with this for a little bit, try to get that loose. Okay, so I just had fun getting this off. So, that slot right there has to match up with the hole, which is right there. And you're gonna use a hex key to put it into there. Those screws have to go back in to hold that part there. Then you take a 16 millimeter wrench of any sort and you use a screwdriver of some sort and you bang it. And you bang it and then this comes loose. You see this? This is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to come loose just like that. Okay? Once this comes off, I will assume this comes off too. Well, what do you know? That comes off. Then I would assume this part here can come directly right off of this once you take those 4 screws out. Okay, so holy crap, I just fought with this for the last 20 minutes just to get that far, so now you can do it too. Okay, so now let's take this off just like that. Voila, we can put that right there, and now we got this part here. Okay, that because those screws are off, now we can slide that right off. Wow, we're gonna look at both of these right now. So we're gonna clean those up and then we're gonna re-grease them. This part looks, oh, that's just a retainer. I see, a retainer. So this can come out. You know what? I'm gonna try to get this. Is there a type of gear? I can't remember what the name of the gear is, but they're slanted. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get these 2 gears out here. Hold on. This is what this gear looks like. That was on that side. And I'm not seeing any deformation or whatever, but we are gonna clean this up. We are gonna just soak this in some dissolver and make this spin. That looks like it. This feels like it spins nicely, so we're just gonna clean that up. Same thing with this one too. It looks like it could come out, but I don't think so. So we're gonna clean this surface up here. Looks like it's got gunk in it. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean up the retainers, these here. Okay. We're also gonna clean up these here too as well. Now let's look at that crack. Remember I said there's a crack right there? So it doesn't look to me like there's any immediate danger as a result of that crack, because it looks like that this retainer is affected like right at the crack, but there's nothing in this area right here. So the grease would not need to be in this area. There would be no leak or anything. It would just be an unfortunacy of a crack, which is the same thing right there. And it looks like we got gunk into there. So yeah, we'll clean this up with some soap and water, and we'll get all of these sparkly clean before we put them back together as a whole. Okay, so I'll show you what they look like after they're cleaned. Everything has now been cleaned and washed. As you can tell, this here is nice and sparkling. Inside there's just a little bit of rust, but that's not a big deal. Everything is. This part here, there is an actual aluminum cap, which you can pop out. By just tapping this out, you can get that aluminum cap up. Okay. This gear here is nice and clean. There's no problems with it whatsoever, including this one here. So when it comes to putting everything together and greasing it, I'm going to be using this type of grease here from Canadian Tire. So I'm just gonna gob it into there, into both of these cavities, just gobbing it, smearing it all over the gears here on both sides. on both sides of this retainer and making everything nice and slick, so that way when it goes together it should run smoothly. Okay, so I'm going to start doing that and put this nice together. And is there anything else that I am missing? This part here, that square that you see right there, that is the part that the line attaches to. So if you were to look at the line right there, this part goes directly right into there. Okay, and it's like that on all other weed whackers that similarly have a fixed head. Okay, so I'm just gonna put everything together. And if we were to look at this part here just before I put everything away, okay, nothing new. Here we go. All right, so this part now is entirely put back together. We just need to put the line in, the cutting line on both ends, which is not a big deal. This crack is not going to be a problem, to be honest with you. It's just going to leak a little bit of grease coming out. To be honest with you, I could cover that with JB Weld or super glue just to put it in the cracks, but it's just meant to keep the grease out and gunk from going in, which is not a big deal. So what we're going to do is clean out the shaft. While I was cleaning out the shaft, I turned this upside down and this was coming out. All that this is to house the line. So what you can do is take some grease, stick it into there with an injector tube or whatever the hell, or you can just coat this as you're sticking it in there, and then just put it back in, and then put that hole, line that hole up with that hole right there, with that tiny screw that you see me take out earlier, tell you about. Okay, so once we get that head in, then we can put this head back onto the weed whacker. Okay. Okay, so we got everything put back together. The only thing that's missing is the air filter and the air filter cover. So just like this, I gotta order a new cover. Not a big deal. The type of oil that I use for the mixed gas is this type. The type of gas that I use is 91 octane. So I put the gas in there, so we're gonna press the primer bulb several times to see how it looks. There should be no leaks coming from anywhere when you spray it. There should be no leaks right there coming out. Yeah, and I'm still pressing the primer bulb, which means this is working exactly like it's supposed to. Okay, press it down and the fluid comes in there. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put the choke on. This is choke. Alright, so this is run, or this is choke. This is half choke, run, half choke, and it snaps, so it's got snaps on it. You see, there's no markings anywhere for the instructions on how to choke it, but this is it. So when it's wide open like that, it's like full running capacity. This would be half running capacity, which is what you would use after choke, and you run it on this position for about a minute. So you're right here, you're restricting air, which is why it's called choke. So I'm going to start it, and I'm just going to see if it will start, and then the head should turn, and then you're going to hear the sound of this. All I want to do is just see what's going to start, because we know that we have a spark, and a spark plug works. So therefore, after we get it done, we're going to take it to a location, and then we're going to adjust the carburetor. Okay, so now we know that it starts, which means there's nothing wrong with the spark plug. There's nothing wrong with the carburetor, and there's nothing wrong with the on-off switch. So, and we now know that that spins and turns, and it's got line on it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to a location, and you're going to see me working with the screwdriver here on both of the jets and choking it. Okay, so right now in this position, it is in the open run position. This is half choke. This is full choke. Full, half, run. Okay, now I didn't exactly download the starter manual for this, but if you download the manual for this, you will find exactly how to start this, because some cases you need to press the trigger in order to start it into the half choke position, and sometimes you don't need to do that. So let's go through this. This is choke. This is what you do. You pull it to get it to go, and then you put it into half choke. In some cases, you need to hit the trigger. In some cases, on some certain models, you do not need to. You can just pull it, and it'll just idle, or it should idle, at half choke. Now, because the carburetor is not set, that's why I have the screwdriver to set the carburetor, and you're going to watch me do that. And then we're going to get this completely, totally running. Okay? So, let's go.